Hey there, everybody. Thank you for joining us on the Political Deep Dive. I'm Dave Valente. Thank you for joining us. This is a week of change for the Political Deep Dive. We're actually broadcasting from Restream. Give them a check out if you're doing shows and things like that and want to broadcast and live stream to various parts of the internet. Restream.io is the address. They do a lot of they can broadcast to multiple streams, even more than our old partner. I'm doing a smaller package, which means I'm not broadcasting to Twitter now, but I can broadcast to pretty much all my old partners, and we really appreciate you joining us this evening. If you are joining us this evening, one thing I'd love for you to do is go visit us on YouTube. Yeah, so click the bell, like and share, and when you click that bell, it gives you a reminder whenever we go live so that you don't miss a show from us. So go on to youtube.com/papaduke to join us on YouTube and to get those weekly reminders. But anyway, let's bring in our co-host this week, Dan, the man, Fishman, a man, a plan, a canal, Panama.
It's actually not the best palindrome. There's another one. I alone made radio, so I dared. Am I mad? Am I? Maybe I'm getting that a little bit wrong. We can talk about it later. We'll talk about a couple things you said earlier in the broadcast. Talking about the fact that we're on a new streaming service. I would remind everybody to remember the Ghostbusters adage of don't cross the streams. So the nice thing is if you've been following us on YouTube, you didn't have to do anything. It's the same broadcast, same channel, stuff like that. So that's a good reason for you to click on that subscribe button on YouTube. Hit the bell so that you'll be reminded whenever we do anything. Help us make this show bigger. Because if you guys subscribe to this show, that means that when other people are looking for content that's like ours, the more people who subscribe to it, the more likely it is it's going to show up. So just by subscribing, you make other people see this content. So please do that. The other thing, Dave, is you talked about the fact that you are going with a smaller package this time.
Well,
we don't need to need that. We don't need to know that.
Yeah, you do.
All right.
No kink shaming. No kink shaming.
No kink shaming, right? Whatever.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody, whatever you like.
So before we get too deep into our topic tonight, let's talk about People for Liberty. What you got going on for People for Liberty?
Well, we got a couple of good things going on right now. Can I share my screen? And if not, you can share your screen and I'll tell you where to go.
Sure, I can. I don't know if you can share your screen. Do you?
Why don't you share and go to peopleforliberty.org?
All right, people.
Because one of the things that we've been doing a lot of recently is focusing on what it is that people can do. And, it's very frustrating at times for me in the Liberty movement. I know for other people that there are things that we've wanted to do. We want to get involved. We want to make a difference, but we're not sure where or how to start. Now, there is actually a lot of stuff that we can do if we're aware of it. So here we are, People for Liberty. I appreciate it. If you go under activism, you'll see a link that says legislation.
Oh, I just clicked activism.
That's all right. Yeah, that's all right. Click legislation there. Now, this is the our legislation page. So every state that is gold right now, there is legislation in the State House that's going to be up for vote relatively soon. We need people to write to their state legislatures. We need people to go to the courthouse. So if go ahead and click on Virginia, and you'll see down below. So here's all the legislations in Virginia, and then of course if you live in Virginia, you're still going to be affected by liberty legislation at the federal level as well. So if you live in Virginia or any one of those other gold states, come here and look at one of these things and find, say, for example, I know for a fact there's one there right there up at the top, proposed to allow Virginia to locality to require child applicant to disclose previous criminal record for marijuana or related offenses. That's crazy, right? Especially because marijuana is about to be legal in Virginia. So it's continued to 22, 23, which means there's a great opportunity right now for us to get out there and legislate. So if you want to help us and you live in Virginia, click on that big I want to help button. It takes you to a form. We will sign you up. We will connect you with the movement that the people who are already organized against this. We're organizing trips down to Richmond. We are organizing letter writing campaigns, all that stuff. But it's got to be about organization. And so the activism plan is one that we're really interested in. The other thing that's really important, if you can go back 2 pages, or just go to activism and legislation again, that's fine too. So see where it says this form? If you highlight the 3rd paragraph, if you'd like to add a piece of legislation, oh wait, 4, I can't count very well. If you would like to add a piece of legislation that affects liberty, please fill out this form. So go ahead and click on that. So chances are pretty good you know about something that's in our state or in your state that we don't know anything about, that you missed the click. I should have made it bigger.
What did I miss?
Click. I think it didn't quite register the click on this form. Did it? Oh, wait, did it change? Oh, it popped up a new window, and your new window isn't shared. Isn't shared.
That makes sense.
Because you're sharing a screen and not, or you're sharing a tab and not a screen. But
Yeah.
you just click. Yeah.
Back to our main screen here, and I'll get that up here.
So what this does, and you'll see it when you get there, we're not going to know about all the legislation that's affecting people, all the liberty legislation in a bunch of different states. What we're doing, and James, I'm assuming James Savina.
Savina, yeah.
Why is it not legal everywhere? Because we haven't done a good job of getting organized. But this is what we have to do. So here's the thing, though, is that there's going to be all sorts of liberty legislation, one way or the other, right? Sometimes there's legislation in the state houses that will make us more free. Sometimes there's legislation in the state houses that will make us less free. Doing the right thing means getting involved, finding out about that legislation, and then just talking to your legislators so that they know how you feel, whether it's in person, whether you are going there to talk about whether you're going down in person. A lot of state houses have in-person lobbying days. That's important, but we're not going to know about everything. So you can see in this form, if you know about a piece of legislation that we should be helping people to organize for in your state, come in here, register it, tell us what state you're in, tell us what the category is. If you scroll down just a bit, and then you give us a summary of what the legislation is. And Celeste Garrett, who is our director of legislation, will make sure that we research your legislation that you're talking about. And if it's really something that we think we can make a difference on, sometimes there's stuff that we're not going to, the vote is passed or something like that. We don't want to get people all excited about it. But it's something where we can make a difference. We're absolutely going to share it on that page. We are going to send it out to our newsletter. And if you're not getting our newsletter, you can go up under activism and click newsletter. You should definitely sign up for our newsletter with this very simple form, right? All we want is your email address. We don't need to know where you live or anything else. You just put your email address in, and monthly you'll start getting our newsletter list. And if there's legislation that we need you for in your state, that'll be in one of the little boxes on your newsletter. So we are using this organization to try to make people aware of liberty legislation all over the place. And that's something we can all get involved in. Another thing I'll mention that we do here, if you go ahead and click on the events, and scroll down, we have, I like to think, the largest list of liberty events in the country. So on the calendar, come take a look. What we're not doing right now is breaking this up geographically. That's coming in the next month. But we want you to know about liberty events that are coming up. And so, for example, there's an online view for the Heritage Foundation on the 27th a preview of what's going to happen in the Supreme Court that year. Glock Day. How can you not like Glock Day on September 24th? Foraging workshop, all these things. And again, if you scroll up to the top, there's a link. It says, if you want to add your event, click here, and then you can tell us about your event, and we'll put it in our calendar, and we'll promote it out to people that know about it. Everything about People for Liberty is meant to work on a thing so that you help us get the word out about liberty, because we think the more people are hearing about liberty, the more they're going to know, I can make a difference. I can get involved. Liberty is for everybody. And then the last thing that we're doing, let me just point out too. So all this stuff, people often say that money is a mother's milk of politics. It's true for nonprofits as well. Click on the donate button. Thank you. One of the important things right now, we're in a position where we are trying to get grants from foundations. And one of the things that they look at is how many sustaining members do we have? How many people do we have who are giving us money every month? You can click that $5 thing, donate in, start giving us $5 a month. And guys, I don't have to tell you, $5 a month is a cup of coffee. But giving us $5 a month allows us to go to a foundation and say, look, we are an organization that's doing a lot of good work. And that'll make a big difference for us. So if you've got $5 a month and you want to help us in our liberty work, that's a nice place to do it. And then the last thing I'd like you to take a look at is homeforliberty.org, new website. Now, People for Liberty, right, it's going to ruin the tab. People for Liberty is a 501c4. That means that we can do political activism. Home for Liberty is a 501c3, and it's based on education. So we have a lot of fascinating things in here. It is a membership site. So you have to become a member to log in and see the stuff that's in here. But that's a list of the leadership. You know, a lot of people there. We have online classes available for you to take inside of Home for Liberty. We have business directories, places to put your own skills up. If you are a person who is working in the Liberty marketplace or working with a skill like a graphic designer or something like that, you can get a business membership with us, and we will help you advertise to all the people in our community. So if you just click on businesses up at the top real quick, in the menu bar.
There we go.
So these are our first partners in businesses. Edward Snowden does consulting work. Incognito, where if you are looking for, they have their clothing holsters, defense clothing for women. This is very fashionable. Mountaintop Creative, Proud Libertarian, that Ghostwriter, all sorts of services available in the Home for Liberty business directory. We promote them all the time. Road for Liberty, if you're a candidate and you need mentoring. And of course, you mentioned Home for Liberty, and you'll probably get a pretty good discount. All the information's there. You can click on courses quickly. So these are courses. So everybody who's a member gets to take courses for free inside of here. So we have 2 classes online right now: identifying a good candidate, how to be a treasurer. We have a class coming online on alternative forms of voting. It's not just ranked choice voting. It's alternative approval voting, ranked choice voting, STAR, Condorcet, done by a man who is an election science expert. So that course is coming online. Jo Jorgensen has a copy of the course that she teaches at Clemson called Happiness coming online. Justin Amash has a course that he taught at the University of Chicago called Libertarianism that we are hoping to bring online soon. And then the last thing I'll say, if you click on sign up, here's the various membership levels. You can come in a basic membership, $4.99. You get to take all the classes. $11 a month, you get to poll all the other members of the Home for Liberty community. And then there's a free membership. You can look around, but you can't do anything. You can't take any classes or anything. So come on in, take a gander around. And now I'll say one thing right now. If you go to the premium membership, Dave, you want to go ahead and click on premium membership? And it'll tell you a little bit about what you get in there. But scroll down to the bottom. See, it says, up at the top. Yeah. Click here to enter your discount code. See there at the bottom. So if you type in "I am home," all capital letters, that will give you a free 6 months of premium membership. So 6 times 12, that's $72. Can't do any better than that. So that is only for the listeners to the political deep dive. Use the "I am home" code, and you'll be able to participate in the Home for Liberty community. So that's the stuff that we got going on. We're going to be in Miami in a month at LibertyCon, hosted by Students for Liberty. And I am going out to California. If anybody's out in California and they want to, we do not have an app yet, but there is a Home for Liberty app coming. It will be, I write all the code. So it's going to take me a little while to finish it up. I'm doing it in Ionic, which is cross-platform. So one code base for iOS, HTML5, and Android. Think November, December. I'm going to be out in Santa Nella, California with Joe this weekend. So if anybody's in that area, Santa Nella is halfway in between Fresno and San Jose. We're out there with the Libertarian Party of California, and it's going to be a fun time. So if anybody's in that area and they'd like to go, just message it here, and I can tell you all the details on how to get there. And then, like I said, Miami in a month. And we are doing a secret boat cruise in Miami. So if anybody's coming to Miami for LibertyCon, the night before, Thursday night, we are taking a moonlight cruise at the harbor in Miami. Supreme from Wu-Tang will be there. They will be shooting a video on the boat. So I'm not sure if I'm going to be topless or not. I think we'll probably have a poll.
But it's nothing to fuck with.
Yeah, Wu-Tang is nothing to fuck with. That's absolutely true. So that's the stuff that we're up to. So thanks for letting us say that, Dave.
Hey, no problem. Yes, Wu-Tang. Wu-Tang. Very nice. All right. So tonight we are talking about elections. We are give or take a few days, 7 weeks away from the November 8th elections for 2022. Of course, for the most part, everything for 2022 is done. We're not really talking about making reforms for 2022, but this is talking about what's wrong with our elections and how do we fix it going forward, 2024, 2020, 2030, who knows? So, Dan, what will be your probably top 3 things that are wrong with the electoral system as we know it in the United States?
The first thing is ballot access, and we harp on this all the time, but it's very difficult in most cases to get on the ballot to let people to vote for you. When I ran for Congress in 2012, and that was the first thing I'd ever run for, and I don't think it's a good place to start. Just so happened that I was motivated for it, and I had the money to spend. But, it cost me $7,500 to get on the ballot. That is not easy access. People ought to be able to run for office without having to put that kind of money forward. Now, the way most people do it so they don't have to spend that money is they become members of a political party, either the Republicans or the Democrats. And depending on the state you're in, the old parties might have enough money to put you on the ballot for free, or at least let you run in their primary. But if you live in a state where you don't, the parties aren't strong. So, for example, where I lived in Massachusetts, the Republicans are very weak. And in fact, the Republicans failed to get a candidate on the ballot for treasurer this cycle. And that's a problem. I believe that, elections are supposed to have candidates. I don't want a Soviet-style election or an Iranian-style election where there's one candidate and they get 90% of the vote. I want an election with actual choices for people. And one of the things that we've been talking about recently is satisfaction with elected officials and elected government is unbelievably low right now. A friend of mine wants to start a party called the Anti-Incumbent Party. It just says, you know what? Let's just get 10% of the voting population, and we always agree that you'll vote against the incumbent, no matter what happens. And that way, if the incumbent's great, they'll win and they'll stay in office. But if they're not great, somebody else is going to get a shot at it. And that's probably a better system than what we have now, where moderate candidates get to stay in power because the party knows how to win, their party knows how to win an election. So I think the first thing that's broken is ballot access. And we need to make it easier for people to get on the ballot so that they can run for office. The second problem is that of publicity. Again, the giant parties have formed together over the years, and they know that the way you get the most publicity is to be on the ballot and to run for office. So they prevent people from being on the ballot and running for office. And so we're not able to generate a lot of publicity. In some places where libertarian candidates or green candidates or working party candidates have done a good job and been able to get on the ballot, they immediately increase their party size extraordinarily. So in Massachusetts, in 2018, I ran for auditor, and I'd like to say I had a successful campaign. I had a high publicity campaign. I was endorsed by all the major papers in the state of Massachusetts. The next year, Libertarian Party enrollment increased by 50%, while at the same time, Republican and Democratic enrollment decreased by 3 and 5% respectively. So running a good candidate helps you with publicity, and it makes the media take you seriously because now you're a major party. You've impacted the election. However, if we haven't been able to get that ballot access, then problem number two comes along where there could be a good libertarian candidate running and the media doesn't take them seriously. They don't tell any stories about them. They don't cover them. They don't let people know that there's a third party or a fourth party or whatever, that there's another candidate running. And
Or
so
there's actually another issue with that, and that it happens here. It happens DC media market. You could get a candidate to run for the Libertarian Party, but by the time that we do our nomination and get them in the fold into that election, even if they have all the money in the world, a lot of times the major parties have already bought up all of that media time, all the commercial time. And, in West Virginia, one of the things is if you don't buy media, if you don't buy commercials, ad buys, you're not getting in the debates. It's run by the Broadcasters Association, and they're funded by, some of the media companies have put that broadcasting association together and funded it through the political ads that they sell each year. So, by the time we actually get into that conversation, all the ad buy is gone.
and it usually takes more money than most libertarian can or third party candidates have. But it's a very good point. And the thing about it is, something that people don't know is that uh, there is a law that says that when you buy advertising from a media outlet, if you are a political campaign, they have to give you the political rate, which is the best rate. So regardless of which party you're in, you're going to get the cheapest possible rate, but it still can be pretty expensive. And I'll give you an example because when you first hear about it, you think, oh, it's pretty reasonable. The thing that I think a lot of people should take advantage of is local cable advertisement. When I ran for Congress in Massachusetts 6th, which is the North Shore of Massachusetts, I bought ads on Fox and Friends and whatever the MSNBC morning show is.
Morning Joe.
And those ads were actually pretty reasonable. It was $35 for a 30-second ad. I'm like, wow, that's great. That's a huge, huge deal. Except that it was $35 for a 30-second ad in each marketplace. So I had to buy one in Beverly and one in Gloucester and one in Lynn and one in Peabody and one in Salisbury and one in Rockport and one in Newburyport. And so I said, you know what? I'm just going to cover the 10 cities, the 10 biggest cities in the area. That'll be enough for me. So that's $35 for each ad. But if I'm only running an ad once, what's my impact? So let's try running it 3 times a day. So now it becomes $100 a day. Kelly's roast beef is exactly right. Nice job, Craig. Kelly's is there. Also, Hamilton's is in North Andover is the other big one. But Kelly's is good because it has the roast beef, but they also have the famous lobster rolls. So, but so then you're talking about $100 a day if you want to run it 3 times during Fox and Friends, which is if you've watched political advertising, that's an important thing. Let's say I want to run it 3 times a day, but then I want to run it for 2 weeks, right? So that's 10 days. So suddenly, what seemed like a really good deal is $3,000 for each city. And if I want to, do that on the 10 most popular cities, it becomes $30,000 to run my ad for 2 weeks. And that's really cheap. But a lot of campaigns don't have $30,000 lying around. So you have to find other things to do. Now, radio is more reasonable, print media is more reasonable. However, the nice thing about cable advertising is you can advertise to pick your show. People who watch Fox and Friends, people who watch MSNBC This Morning or whatever they call it, those people are usually pretty politically active. And so they're probably going to vote. But it is, as James points out, fundamentally a rigged system. The Democrats and the Republicans have set up so that they already have their organizations built, and it's impossible for anybody else to break in. And so that's why really, I would argue 90 years, you haven't seen a credible third party run more than once. Ross Perot put it together. Libertarian Party has run a presidential candidate several times, but to see a party maintain party status in a state for more than 4 years, I don't know anywhere where that's happened. Yeah. And it's unfortunate. So I think those are the 3 big hindrances right now to elections.
So for me, I agree with all that, but gerrymandering. I think one of the fundamental flaws of our system right now is that we've got the people that are running under these systems making the boundary. So the fundamental principle for me is that the people should choose who represents them. The representatives should not choose who should not choose their voters. And here's part of the reason why gerrymandering works. So let's take a state like North Carolina, where it's pretty close, or Georgia, where it's been pretty close. What they'll do with gerrymandering is the party that wants to gerrymander will pack as many of their opponents into one district, or as as few districts as possible. So, like in Georgia, the Republicans will pack, thousands of people into, and only Democrats into the 5th district, was John Lewis's old district, Central Atlanta. This is the one that Chase Oliver ran for a couple of years ago. They'll pack nothing but Democrats in those districts, and they come out in these funky lines where they, because of computer programs now, they can hyper target where you'll see a district come up along a road and then grab like 5 houses, and then in Georgia, in 2002, there was a district that started in Marietta, which is in Cobb County, and then it went up to the Alabama border, all the way up to the Tennessee border, all the way across to the South Carolina border, and down to a little town called Toccoa. And this was one district, and none of these people really, I mean, you couldn't say that people in Marietta had much to do with people, even either near Rome or near Toccoa. These districts make no sense, but it was because they picked these people because of how they voted in previous elections. That's how that district was built. So getting that out of the hands of the politicians and getting it into either I know in Michigan they have a citizen-led initiative. Some states like Virginia do courts now. Getting it out of the politicians' hands, I think, is key to getting out of what we're doing with gerrymandering. You're right, ballot access. For me, the idea of ballot access is, having expending so many resources just to get on the ballot for third parties, smaller parties, which have a limited number of volunteers, just fries them out for the actual general election.
Gerrymandering is a great point. If you can call up that link that I sent you in the private
Yeah,
chat. So I think most people are familiar with the city of Detroit
I got
in
a paywall on
Michigan.
that one.
And one of the craziest things that's happened is the Democrats gerrymandered Detroit in such a way that there will be no black. So Detroit's going to elect a Democrat. However,
Yeah,
no black person is going to be elected from Detroit because of the way the Democrats drew up their own party lines, because they didn't want to elect an Ayanna Pressley or an Ilhar Oman or a person who wouldn't necessarily toe the party line. So what they did was they split up the city of Detroit in like pieces of pie with larger sections of the suburbs outside. So there was no district, which was a majority black district. And so all the black candidates lost to candidates who were coming out of the suburbs.
yep,
And the party did that intentionally, not because the party is racist per se, but because they want candidates who are reliable, who will never fight against the party, who will always do what they're told. And they thought the suburban voters, suburban candidates, those are the guys we want. So gerrymandering doesn't just hurt third party candidates, it actually hurts the party itself because it hurts democracy because it prevents representation
yeah,
of the way things should be done. Massachusetts is a great example as well. Massachusetts has 9 elected Democrats, but the Massachusetts districts were drawn fairly. 2 of them should be Republicans.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, it really is just to pack as many of that one party you want to avoid into one district so that you can maximize the number of people in your party getting elected. And yeah, it's also used as a tool to, I wouldn't say they're moderate voices. I would say that they are establishment, toe the line
Yeah, that's exactly
Democrats.
it.
You're not
It
going to get
keeps
the progressives.
right. It keeps the let's say the new voices out.
Yeah,
Right? It keeps even in the Democrats, right? There are conservative Democrats who believe in supporting the old Democratic Party line. Uh, they want to stay in power, and they realize that in a lot of places, like for example in Massachusetts or New York, the biggest threat to Democrats is not Republicans; it's new Democrats, and so they've put barriers to entry in to make it difficult for new progressive Democrats to get elected, and that hurts everybody.
yeah,
So hopefully, uh, gerrymandering gerrymandering is a problem. An alternate voting format too would certainly make a difference. Like I mentioned earlier, Home for Liberty is going to have a class about alternate voting methods. But if you're not familiar with ranked choice voting and approval voting, those are methods in which you get to vote for more than one person at once.
yeah,
And what you do is you don't vote for the people that you don't like. So then everybody's votes are totaled up, and the person who is least liked won't get elected. And that's different than our normal system of election, where, if you look at the Republican primaries in 2016, certainly I would say in the early ones, New Hampshire, which is a big primary, Donald Trump was the least liked candidate there. However, he also had the largest single voter base. They all voted for him, and he got 35% of the vote. And Ted Cruz got 20%, and Marco Rubio got 15%. Rand Paul got 11%, and Philip Seymour Hoffman, or maybe he didn't run. But yeah,
but
right.
I mean, yeah. So I mean, for me, ranked choice voting. I'm a proponent for ranked choice voting. I've
Me too.
seen approval. Not totally sold on that, and I know that they're not perfect. Ranked choice voting is not perfect. But if you watch what happened in Alaska, that's how it should work. 2 Republicans were running against a Democrat in that race. Uh, the moderate Republican uh, finished third. And instead of all those votes going to, the conventional wisdom is that all those votes will go to the Republican. because it was Sarah Palin and she's out there and she's talking about, Trump and being king and all that crap. The a sufficient number of those votes went to the Democrat who led out, after the first round of voting, because you got the Democrat votes. But a sufficient number of Republican votes went to her because she was much less crazy than Sarah Palin. That's how it should work. Let's not,
As you pointed
Patola
out,
would have won,
this was a special election, so there
yeah.
wasn't a primary.
But Alaska does this now.
Right, right. But there, in the next system, there will be a primary before that, right? They don't have open primaries. It's just because it was a special election. I think. I don't know. Is it open primaries?
I believe it's
Or is there
open
no
primaries,
primary?
top four out of the primary.
Right, right.
So, you could have 3 Republicans and 1 Democrat, or you could have. I mean, we see this happen in California where you have races where it's top 2 and it's both Democrats, and you really don't get a choice.
Well, but you do, because the Democrat who can get the most Republican votes is going to win in a top 2 primary. I mean, top 2 is more flawed than other things, but it's still better than first past the post,
Yeah.
where somebody can win with 35% of the election,
Yeah.
35% of the electorate. And that's terrible. Nobody should win an American election. And it's been much smaller than that. Massachusetts 3 in 2018 was won by a Democrat who got 21% of the vote in a 9-candidate field.
Yeah.
Okay. 80% of the people chose not to vote for this candidate, but they still got elected to Congress.
Exactly. And, people can use that as an excuse of why we shouldn't have as many parties in these elections. We, get us down to this binary choice. But, if you start putting in things like ranked choice voting and allowing, getting to a point where you get a majority opinion on who gets elected to this office, then you don't need to exclude parties at just because you think that, well, if we have 2 parties, we're going to definitely get a winner, because it's not often the case either. I mean, I remember in Georgia, we'd have races where, spoiled ballots and all that stuff would drop everything below, no candidate would get 50%. You get, to me, the worst thing is Georgia, where you get the the second election 6 weeks later,
right?
Which means you get 6 weeks more political ads.
Yeah.
After you've spent the previous 6 months getting political ads for the general election.
That sort of thing is terrible.
Yeah.
So there's a lot that can be fixed. And then, the one other thing I'll say about it is that it's important that people realize that democracy can still involve tyranny. Alexis de Tocqueville wrote about this. A tyranny of the majority is when 51% of the people vote to override the will of 49% of the people.
Yeah.
Our founding fathers thought about this, and they created a constitution with a Bill of Rights that says essentially, even if 90% of the people say you shouldn't have a gun, you still have a right to have a gun, and they can't take that away from you. Even if 90% of the people say that, that Christianity is bad, the government can't make any laws banning Christianity. You have these rights that are guaranteed to you, and the Constitution says that no matter what happens, democracy or government, which is the implementation of democracy, can't take those rights away from you. That is a good idea. And it's important that people remember that what you're voting for is a representative whose job is to not rule you. It's a good leader who can lead when they have to, but it's a better leader who cannot lead when they don't have to. Those are the people you should be voting for, the ones who know to not lead when they don't have to.
Yeah, absolutely. Another reason why I like ranked choice voting is that I think it will have a moderating influence on elections, on the rancor that we see in elections. Because let's say you're in a 5-person election, you've got a Democrat, Republican, Green, Libertarian, and working families. If the Democrat and Republican think that the race is going to be very, very close, they're going to start reaching out to the other parties and say, what are you interested in? What can I do to help earn your second place vote, so that if your candidate doesn't win, I can represent you better. And we've seen that in some elections that have employed
The New
ranked
York
choice
City
voting.
mayor's election, Andrew Yang specifically went out there, and he and a woman whose name will lose me right now, Kathy something or other,
Yeah,
but they campaigned, huh?
yeah. I remember the. I don't remember her name, but yeah.
Right. But Andrew Yang and this woman campaigned together and said, "Give me your first place vote and give her your second place vote." She said, "No, no, no. Give me your first place vote and give Andrew your second place vote." And they said, "Well, you got your peanut butter and my chocolate, but it tastes great together. So please vote for either one of us first, whichever one you like best, but then vote for the other person second."
Yeah,
And that's
and
the way that it should work, because then no candidate is going to go out there. Like, nobody's going to go out and pull a Donald Trump where he says, the thing about Marco Rubio, tiny hands. Oh, no, it wasn't Marco. Yeah, no, it was right. Marco Rubio, he said he had tiny hands. Ted Cruz, he said that Ted Cruz's father killed Kennedy.
his wife was a dog.
Yes. And Jeb Bush, he said, I don't know what he said about Jeb Bush, but
Jeb was sad. I think it was just
low
sad. Jeb,
energy, low
low
energy.
energy. Yeah.
Yeah. So here's Donald Trump saying all these terrible things about candidates because there's no harm for him insulting them, right?
No.
Because the people who are going to vote for him are still going to vote for him. But if there'd been ranked choice voting and all the Jeb Bush voters had voted for Ted Cruz, or all the Ted Cruz voters had voted for Jeb Bush, Donald Trump would not have been president in 2016.
Yep.
But we had a system where that didn't happen. So hopefully we'll fix some of that stuff up. I'll do a little plug here. Fairvote.org is a
Yes.
partner of People for Liberty. Fairvote.org, and they are in some of the states, and then in the other states it is Rank the Vote, I believe. So
Yeah.
fairvote.org, and then in the other states is Rank the Vote. So one of those two, and I think Rank the Vote has a map. So I would probably go to Rank the Vote first and look at their map. And then from there, based on the state you're in, they'll tell you which state to go to. I'm going to Rank the Vote right now. Let's Rank the Vote NYC.
See if I can learn how to spell it here.
Rankthevote.us is their website. And so if you go to rankthevote.us, there's a thing on their website. It says take action, and it tells you all the state movements, and then you can figure out which one you want to get in, which one you get involved with, either Rank the Vote or Fair Vote, because they're covering different states. But one of them is a state for you. So, well, hopefully one of them is a state for you.
Yeah, there's not much appetite here in West Virginia for it. They did try and do some legislation to maybe do the state Supreme Court elections as ranked choice voting, because we end up getting like 10 candidates for 2 spots, and our state Supreme Court justices are folks that get 20% in those elections. So, but they still have not done anything with that election that stuff yet. So. But yeah, the other thing that I would like to see, and I know that this is kind of a pipe dream, I would have to have the kind of finger of God to be able to get it done. Yeah, don't boop the camera. But honestly, I think I would much rather live in a parliamentary democracy.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be nice. I just don't think it's going to happen. I don't.
No, it's not going to happen here. I mean, not without
Why don't you explain to people what you mean by that?
So parliamentary democracy. Let's take a look at like Canada. So Canada above us has a parliamentary system. Oh yes.
Sorry.
So they have a parliamentary system. So much like the United States, it has single member districts. Much like the United States, it has first past the post voting, but it has multiple parties. So the barrier to get on the ballot in Canada is much less than within the United States. So in Canada, you have major parties throughout you got two main parties, the conservatives and the liberal party.
Liberals.
And then you have smaller parties like the New Democratic Party, the NDP,
FQN.
and the
Free
Bloc
Quebec now.
the Bloc Québécois. There are it's a regional party. It only represent Quebec. You're not going to see a BQ candidate out in Alberta, but you have a variety of voices within your parliament, and I think it's even where the systems are flawed, because I think Canada's is flawed in the fact that they don't have ranked choice voting, and that a lot of times their member of parliament is elected with like 30% of the vote or less. Um, but you do have a much more vibrant democracy within their country because you have a whole lot more voices being heard. Same with England. There are two main parties, but there are a lot of parties that represent either regional interests or there's a larger third party within that balance. Again, a New Democrat type party that can influence elections and has actually gained quite a large following within the country in previous elections. So we're seeing parliamentary democracies across Europe that they do switch hands, and I know a lot of people will point out the fact that Europe is kind of this welfare state hellhole that people complain about, but I also think that a lot of times they get a lot of things right when it comes to the economy. Like people rail on Sweden, but Sweden's economic freedom is incredible. The ability to start businesses in Sweden is so much easier in the United States. And it's because of this moderating influence of having these multiple party systems.
Yeah, as an American, having been to Europe, I have to say, excellent country. Sorry, easy joke. There is that, yeah. The parliamentary system has a lot of things going for it. One of the other fascinating things that I've heard suggested for the United States would be to have a third house, which would be 100 members, and they would be populated based on the percentage of candidate in the presidential vote. So in that case, now we would have a house that would have, let's just say, based on the last election, 48% Republican and 49% Democrat and 2% Libertarian. And that would be a really interesting house, because then in order to get something past it, right, you have to, either party would have to work with the Libertarians. Although probably, knowing the way government works, in most cases you see Republicans and Democrats working together against the Libertarians.
Exactly.
But it's an interesting idea, because there should be some sort of percentage reflection of, the minor parties. The fact of the matter is, and then this is like, we're talking about like pipe dream systems. I want a system where, in order to get elected, you get elected based on the number of votes that you get. However, it has to be compared to the number of registered voters. And registered voters who don't vote, they elect representatives who are the status quo. And in order to pass something, you have to have more votes than everybody votes against it, and the status quo votes against everything. So, because that's really where it is, right? We have so much apathy. All right. What's the thing I really hate the most about elections? It's apathy. It's all the people out there who don't do anything, right? Who don't vote, who don't care, who are happy to be servants of the state. And they worry about other people's independence. And so if there's anything that's going to motivate them to do something, it's the idea that government is going to be, the government that takes care of them is going to be taken away and replaced by a government that supports libertarians. So we got a lot of really good points here. Janice, thank you for bullet pointing them for us. Especially like the old school bullet point with an asterisk in front. Um,
Yes.
those of us who remember the old Courier font, that's the way you had to do it. None of that fancy stuff. Either an
I've,
asterisk or a little lowercase o. I would occasionally use too to make bulletin.
yeah.
So those are, it's like they say all the time. American democracy is the worst form of government there is, except for all the others.
Well, I mean, look at how what the governments that we set up in Europe
Yep.
after the war. None of them are a mocker, are an American democracy. For
Right.
Germany, maybe a little bit closer, but still, it's parliamentary.
Yep.
And they're like France and Germany have a presidential system, but the president is relatively weak compared to the prime minister. So, uh, you know, we didn't even choose where we could have just written, "Hey, you're going to have," Germany had states. You could do their exactly the same way they did the United States. Didn't do it. So
It's
I don't know.
interesting too because the Europeans do have this fundamental desire for an authoritarian system. I think a lot of it comes from just generations and generations under monarchy. So 1985, I went to the Soviet Union. I was going to school in England at the time,
Commie.
and I met my school in England took a trip to the Soviet Union every December. I said, I want to go on that, and so here I was, one American among a bunch of British students. A lot of strange things happened while we were there, and I'll save some of them. But at one point in time, I was hanging out with these two Russian guys, and they were pretty cool. And we traded clothing and stuff like that, all the things you hear about. And at one point, I'm like, so let me ask you guys this. Do you want to come live in the United States? Like, no, 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 no. They're like, we want to live like someplace free, but America is too free. And I'm like, it's fascinating. You have this thing that if you've been conditioned forever that somebody is going to guide you and take care of you, that's what you want. And you think about our founding fathers who came from a system like that, but they came to the idea that they wanted to be free, right? And you think of Jefferson's brilliant words: a just government derives its power from the consent of the governed. And it's only that if you consent, that government should have any power over. And as soon as you stop consenting, its power should end. It's a radical belief, and it changed the world. And here we are, the direct descendants of that amazing gift. And unfortunately, we're in a system where so many people still just want to throw it away. They want to go back to the European style where they can have some of their freedoms, but they can't have all of their freedoms. And one of the things that I love that we used to say was all of your freedoms all of the time. That's what you should have. It's what you should expect. And hopefully we'll get to a system and someday have a party that represents that idea.
Yeah, and I mean, I think within it may have been brilliant that the United States instituted those parliamentary style systems within Europe, in that it prevents from going way too far. There is a moderating influence so that you don't end up. I mean, there's a couple of countries that are kind of on the watch list when you talk about like Viktor Orban and in Hungary and
Yeah.
even what happened this week in Sweden. One of the stories we wanted to cover a little later. The a party that was founded by fascists now is the second largest party and could be forming government in Sweden coming up this next week.
Yep.
So there are some places where they are kind of swinging, and it really is an economic thing. But you know, I don't know. I mean, I look at our system right now, and I see it breaking down. I see the trust in the institutions of our government, even though our government doesn't do a lot of trustful things. But the idea of voting and getting being represented has never been lower.
Yep. Yep. I agree with all of that.
And it's
And,
because they built those systems now to exclude as many voices as possible and only listen to the connected.
right. The entire purpose of the Republican Democratic Party is to undermine the American system in which all people vote their conscience and
Yep.
try to not rule each other.
Yeah, sir. Absolutely.
Boo, Republicans.
Boo,
Boo, Democrats.
boo, all them bastards. All
Yep.
right, let's. You ready for the quiz?
I am ready.
You are ready. Let's see if we can improve upon. Oops, that's not the right one. Let's improve upon our score of I think 7 out of 10 last week.
I like that somebody called me Canal Dude.
Canal dude.
Yep.
Let's see. Yep.
I
Yeah,
can put my real
absolutely.
name on there.
All right. Oops. Let me bring us back in there. There we go. There we are. All right. So, 5 things news quiz from
Wait, stop.
CNN.
Let's go back to that. Oh, I was going to say, do we recognize that picture from the picture that was before this? But it doesn't matter.
Well,
Those are eggs. Yep.
Yeah, no. So, big thing for us is context clues. Now, I'm not really sure where that's at.
Oh, boy, that's tough.
It looks familiar.
I thought it was Columbia, but I'm not sure. All right, let's
All
go
right.
through the questions.
All righty. Question number 1. King Charles III became Britain's new monarch following the death of his mother, Queen Elizabeth II. Who is next in line of royal succession?
It's William.
Prince Andrew, Prince Henry, Prince William, or Prince George?
William.
It is Prince William.
All the other guys have too much hair.
Exactly.
Yeah. Although it's interesting because, Charles has got a pretty full head of hair for a man his age.
Mm-hmm.
So, clearly William's coming from the Diana side.
Yeah, yeah. That light blonde hair.
Yep. He'll be a better king. I hope Charles steps down quickly.
Yeah. I don't know how long he lasts, but yeah. I mean, look at his mom. She went to 95 years old.
She did, but I think that she went that long because she knew what an idiot Charles was. She was kind of hoping that he would die. Maybe not. But she's probably not hoping that her child
She
would
could have
die.
sent him down a Paris tunnel.
Exactly. But regardless, Charles would be a terrible king. Hopefully, he won't try to do too much.
There's talk that he's really kind of pushing Harry out, and I absolutely abhor the palace speculation that we've been seeing. But yeah, it'll be interesting the next few years.
Right. I think he wants to re-annex the American colonies too. So
good luck with that. Anyway, question number 2? Which state has the most confirmed cases of monkeypox?
I mean,
California,
it's
New
just got to
York,
be
Utah.
California by numbers, right? California is almost twice as big as New York now.
Yeah.
And
I bet you it's Utah. I bet you it's Utah.
I mean, there's a lot of monkeys there.
The freaks come out at night.
But all right, if you think it's
I'm
Utah,
gonna say California.
That's New York.
California
You're over New York, yeah. No, I say California too. I mean, it could be New York, but yeah.
4,300 monkeypox cases, which I mean, really is not a whole lot.
Not exactly. Right. If California population is so big compared to all the other states.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, at the height of coronavirus, I think we were losing 4,300 people a day. So,
and there is a component to monkeypox that unprotected sex can spread monkeypox pretty easily. And one of the negative consequences of PrEP in the gay community is that now the risk of AIDS isn't as high. Not everybody is as careful as they should be regarding protection. So just remember the 2 famous stories, right? If you want to play doctor, always wear gloves. If you want to jump out of an airplane, always take a parachute.
Exactly. Now, I will say one of the better things that the government is doing is that when it comes to things like next month, or I think this month is Atlanta Pride, they're funneling down a lot of the vaccine for monkeypox down to the Atlanta area. So they're positioning this stuff in areas where they think it's going to. I kind of hate it in a way that it makes it seem like Monkeypox is only a gay person's disease, and it's
Right.
not. It's anybody who has sex unprotected
Right.
has a chance of getting it. So,
Right.
but yeah, I mean, I'm glad that they're
Right.
pre-positioning this stuff, and hopefully the numbers do stay lower based off of that.
Right. And monkeypox is not a gay person's disease any more than AIDS is a gay person's disease.
Exactly.
Okay. You know, Liberace died from it. Wait.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. No, but seriously, lots of people who are sexually active are at risk from sexually transmitted diseases. That's it.
And it's not just sexually transmitted too. I mean, it
That's true too.
can
You get
be close contact with somebody who has open sores, things like
yep,
that can
yep.
still give you monkeypox, even though you may not have sex with that person. So just be careful, you know. Uh,
All
all
right.
right. Question number 3. The 74th Emmy Awards were presented on Monday. Which show took home the award for Outstanding Drama Series? Ozark, Secession, Squid Game, or Stranger Things?
I have no idea, but this is how I'm going to guess. They would never give it to a foreigner, so that rules out Squid Games. They would never give it to a science fiction show because it says drama, and so that rules out Stranger Things. So now we've got Ozark and Secession, and I've watched Ozark, and it's pretty good. So I think the Academy gave it to Secession.
I have no idea. I've not watched any one of these shows at all. Um, I would guess either. I would definitely guess either Ozark or Secession. Um,
Ozark did end, which gives it some advantage. But I'm going to guess. My guess is Secession, just
all
because.
right.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh,
Hey, how about
correct.
that?
Session won the Emmy for Outstanding Drama Series, the final award of the night. The show's creator, Jesse Armstrong, caused a bit of a stir by taking a dig at King Charles III during his acceptance speech, which, fine. I haven't watched an award show in
Yeah,
probably
I'm
since
watching a
the
war show since
George
uh,
W. Bush administration,
Chris
maybe.
Rock got hit by
Well,
Will Smith. But I
that's
I
the only
wasn't
reason you
watching
would
it.
watch.
Exactly.
All right, question number 4. Joe Biden delivered a highly anticipated speech this week on a moonshot initiative. Which ambitious goal did he announce? Make all public universities tuition free, land a woman on the moon by 2025, reduce U.S. cancer deaths by at least 50%, or eliminate all gas powered cars in the United States by 2025.
It's 2040 for the gas powered cars, so that's not it. I don't think he's going to make all public universities tuition free because they're paid for by the states anyway. Land a woman on the moon, we know that can't happen because there is no moon. And so I'm guessing that it is reduce U.S. cancer deaths by at least 50%.
I would concur just because cancer has really hit his family hard. So that would be a passion thing for him. So let's do that one. Yes.
All
So his
right.
Moonshot Initiative aims to reduce cancer deaths in the U.S. by at least 50% over the next 25 years. The other reason why that one made more sense is that there was not a timetable on it. I know that
Right.
we're trying to land a woman on the moon with the
Well,
in the coming Artemis missions, but
yeah.
who knows?
It's also interesting to point out that, right, that is going to happen. We are going to reduce cancer deaths by 50%, and has nothing to do with the president doing anything about it. We were on track for that already. Well, Steve is here. End the show.
Steve,
Right.
we got to get him on the show sometime.
What I would recommend is, and Steve's in the Philadelphia area, and he owns a sailboat. And if you can go out with him and his 2 brothers, you'll be 3 sheets to the wind.
There you go.
I'll be here all week.
I thought that's what we were calling his lemonade.
Yes,
Steve Sheets to the
exactly.
Wind.
Right, 3 sheets to
Steve,
the wind.
no, Steve Sheets to the Wind.
Steve Sheets to the Wind, right, is the name of Steve's famous alcoholic lemonade.
There you go.
And it does reduce cancer deaths. So,
It'll reduce everything.
yep.
Question number 5. Rising inflation has driven food prices in the United States far higher than they were a year ago. Which of the following grocery items are seeing the biggest increase?
We ruined it
And
by looking at the picture, but I
context
would have known it anyway.
clues.
Yeah.
I did too. I actually thought to look up the inflation stuff because it
Well,
reared its ugly head this week.
one of the interesting things is so People for Liberty has been doing a broadcast, the Liberty Minute, where it's a 1 minute conversation. And some of the most popular podcasters have been Brenda and Pickles, Hollywood's Chickens. And their thing today, or Thursday, I guess, they reported on the fact that the price of eggs has risen 47% in the last 2 months.
Yeah.
Brenda told Pickles that, to which Pickles' response was, "Lay, baby, lay."
Nice. All right. Question number 6. Which superstar athlete recently teased a potential return to competitive sports? Serena
Serena
Williams,
Williams.
Dwayne The Rock Johnson, Michael Phelps, or David Beckham?
It's Serena Williams, and it's silly.
Yeah. She, I don't know. She didn't get out of the third round of the U.S. Open.
Well, but so here's the thing: just don't say you're retiring. Martina Navratilova was winning doubles well into her 50s.
Yeah.
If you look up the number of Wimbledons and U.S. Opens that Martina Navratilova won, she's way ahead of Serena Williams because she won all those double titles late into life. So
Yeah.
Serena shouldn't make a big deal about it. And I mean, I think she and Venus could probably win ladies doubles 10 more years in a row. That's my thought.
Absolutely.
And actually, John and Patrick McEnroe won doubles well after John retired from singles play.
Yeah. All right. Legendary film director Jean-Luc Godard died at 91 this week. Where did he revolutionize cinema in the late 50s and 60s?
On the
Australia,
moon.
Britain.
He's the guy behind the Goddard Center.
There you go.
That's such a geeky joke.
Australia, Britain, France, or Greece? It was France.
It was France.
President Emmanuel Macron tweeted a tribute to the director on Tuesday. I called him a national treasure. So
I will just say that my favorite French director is Francois Truffaut. And if you haven't seen The 400 Blows or The Bicycle Thief, put them on your list. Just outstanding movies.
The Bicycle Thief sounds familiar.
400 Blows is his most famous. Bicycle Thief is his second most favorite. But 400 Blows, like, you can find it everywhere, and it's just great. It's about a kid, and his life's kind of screwed up. But it's like the universal thing. But there's so much revolutionary stuff in there, and the camera work, and just a great movie. Can't recommend it enough.
Well, Godard was supposedly influenced people like Tarantino and kind of a more avant-garde type cinema. Question number 8. Apple on Monday released its next generation mobile software, iOS 16. Which highly anticipated feature did the company introduce to its iPhones? Let's see. Automatic spam call blocking, edit and unsend messages, underwater recording, or X-ray vision.
I'm going to guess edit and unsend iMessages, because that would be pretty easy to implement.
And Apple just it gives you features that have been available on Android for ages.
Yeah. I mean, it could be underwater video recording, but I don't think so.
Yeah, they would have had commercials for that already.
Janice, you don't own a cell phone? Nothing? Like, not even a clam phone? That's pretty...
It's interesting how things have come full circle with the, now that Samsung has the Samsung Flip Z phone.
Yep. Right. It's a clamshell again.
Yeah. Eventually, we're going to go back to the old Motorola's and stuff.
Yep, exactly.
We'll do edit and send iMessages, and that's it.
Yep.
All right. New feature, edit and send iMessages. All right. Which Ivy League university recently acknowledged submitting inaccurate data for consideration in college rankings? And that was probably what we were looking at.
Oh my God. And so I'm going to stand by what I said it was. which would be
Columbia.
pretty impressive. Yeah.
All right. It is Columbia.
Wow. Can you believe? So here's the sad thing. You know why I knew that was the Columbia campus?
Why?
Ghostbusters. They're on those
Wow.
steps in the beginning of Ghostbusters.
Wow.
Yep. Bill Murray
Okay.
saves the day.
Yes.
Uh, it's funny because I would have guessed it anyway because those other three schools, they have no need to falsify data.
No. All right. Final question. Can we do the perfect run here? Which two countries are forging much closer economic ties since the war in Ukraine began? Russia and Finland, Russia and China, Ukraine and North Korea, Ukraine and China.
There's got to be Russia and China, right?
Yeah, context clue at the beginning. They had a picture of Putin. And
Oh, right. Good.
yeah,
Woo! 10
10
for
out of
10,
10.
baby. Hey,
Perfecto.
AJ, if you're watching, stay home next week too. No, I'm just
Oh,
kidding. I'm just kidding. And
wow.
actually, next week I will not be on the show.
Actually, next week, I don't think I can have a show because I'm working.
All right. So
So,
AJ, you are on by yourself next week.
yeah, you're hosting by yourself.
Yep. All right. Well, that's good. The 10 for 10 is very exciting.
Yeah.
Um,
A lot to live up to next time we're on the show.
yep. Do we want to
So,
really irritate some libertarians and talk about this week in football?
sure. It's
Did
been
you
an
watch
interesting
the
week.
Appalachian State game?
Yes.
That
So
was
I
pretty
watched
crazy.
college game day, and all of the hosts on college game day doing the and want to talk about one thing with college game day that they need to stop. Um, but everyone predicted App State to win the game. They gave Troy no chance. Troy
Troy should have
had
won.
it. Yeah, they had him on the ropes,
Yep.
and just even the Hail Mary pass didn't even make it to the end zone. He had to run like 10 yards to get into the end
Well,
zone.
I do think though that was designed. There is a design sort of hook and ladder
Ah,
style play that I mean I didn't see any interviews about it, so I don't know, but that's my guess. However, none of this happens if Troy doesn't run and give up the safety at the end and then punt the ball back.
yeah,
If they just put a little more effort into trying to get a first down, maybe they would have done a better job. We know AJ, and of course the problem was that before that she saw pigs in a blanket, and of course you always want to cast swines before pearl. Dum dum.
hey, hey, ho, ho, she's still alive.
Yes, so that's good. The other thing though that I've been struck by is the plethora of bad coaching this year in both
Oh my
college
goodness.
and professional football. Denver last week, right? This crazy thing where they had a minute left and it was a 4th and 5. Russell Wilson's your quarterback. He can scramble for 5 yards if you tell him that's what the play is. But instead, they don't know what they're doing. They run 45 seconds off the clock and end up trying to kick a 64-yard field goal, which they
Yeah,
missed. Uh,
they did the same thing today. Uh,
Amazing. It was
I,
we couldn't believe it today.
yeah, but
I was
when
watching with my posse, and yeah, just that coach,
he's trying to
NFL.
get fired in like 3 weeks.
Yeah, exactly. NFL means not for long for him.
Yeah, yeah. If unless he gets somebody who can actually manage time better on his staff,
Yeah,
say, hey, coach, maybe we want to take a timeout here. We got three.
yeah.
Take a timeout. You know.
Fi- they should really employ somebody else who that's their only job is clock management. Take it out of the hands of the coaches because there's too much other stuff going on,
Yeah.
and you've got to be calculating that stuff really carefully. Like I'm trying to remember which one I was watching. The Arizona Oakland game. They should have taken 2 timeouts before the 2-minute warning, but instead
Yeah.
they let the clock run down all the way to the 2-minute warning and then took their timeouts. As it turns out, it didn't matter. Arizona came back and won, and just an outstanding ending to a game.
That was a
But,
crazy game.
but what was really crazy about it is I had a friend who had Arizona, except Arizona was the underdog. But he
We all did.
really he actually needed the Raiders to score 6 points in overtime instead of Arizona doing it, but
Uh,
didn't happen. He lost his bet. But yeah, just so many bad coaching decisions. And I think that sooner or later they're going to get to the point where they start to realize that they can be, they think that that coaching is more of an art form still. But I think that if you look at Moneyball, if you look at F1, stuff like that, analysis, just raw number analysis needs to start coming into play more often,
Yeah.
and that will change results.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of hate I can't read the Athletic. Like the
Right.
Athletic, um, half their article is just deep analytics that, as a even a rabid fan of like hockey or baseball or whatever, like when I start seeing like numbers, I hate math, so I don't want to look at your deep nerdy stuff. Like
Right.
have articles for that, but have articles that talk about the game and all that stuff, rather than just regurgitated math class. But yeah, you're right. There is an art to coaching, and there's other sports are now employing things like in hockey you have a video coach that's up in the skybox that'll ring down and say, hey, you need to have this play reviewed, because there's no way a coach can look at that in the short amount of time. I think baseball is probably going to go that way, the same as well, because right now coaches are taking a look in the dugout for replays. Have a video guy to make that call for you.
Well, and one of the great examples of this, and it's interesting because now they're making the rule to, or I guess it's still in the minor league where they're taking away the shift.
Yes, actually, that's coming to the major leagues next season.
Okay, so but that's an example of sheer analysis says the shift works, and so you should play it. Now I like the fact that they say what, we're not going to do it because that's not part of the rules. Although it is interesting to think that there's a generation of hitters who probably had 20 to 30 points taken off their batting average
Hmm.
because they had to play against a shift.
Yeah,
Um,
and how it's impacted. You would think that as a hitter, you would adjust your swing to take advantage of shift to hit to the opposite field or
right.
whatever. What they've done is increase the launch angle on their pull hitting to
Yep.
knock it out of the park. And so either you get a home run or a strikeout, and it's really made to me, it's made baseball almost unwatchable the last few years.
Yep.
And they've done some things to address some of that issues, like analytics has been really big in pitching, where they were just a guy would pitch to one batter and then get replaced. So they made the rules to
Right.
limit the number of pitching changes. I'm good with that. Um,
Yep.
there are things that analytics can help. Can Moneyball shows that you can build an organization, not with the highest price talent, but people that work well together and can that complement each other.
That the Scott Hatterberg story, which they cover in Moneyball in the movie, but hearing it told from his side is just amazing. And
Hmm.
they do a good job of it, but things were a little bit desperate in his house, and nobody wanted him, and the A's are like, oh, we really want you. It's such
Yeah,
a great story. And then all the stuff that happens, and he gets that hit and everything about it. It's just, you couldn't write a better story.
yeah,
That I like that part of it, that you can make a great team through the data and stuff like that. But you also need to start doing that stuff to stop coaches from doing stupid things. Like, know what the numbers are. Should I go for it on 4th and 2? Okay, should I go for it on 4th and 2? It's just a raw analytical decision. Now, I mean, there's a
yeah,
little bit of feeling in there. Have they stopped us, this defense, et cetera, stuff like that. But your plays, what you should probably do. And, there's a lot of computers chugging away saying, what does Andy Reid call in this situation most of the time? That sort of thing. So I would like to see those changes come along, because this year in football, I've just been stunned by some terrible, terrible coaching.
yeah, yeah. And one point I wanted to make about College Game Day is, for the love of God, please pull Lee Corso off that show. He
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's not even laughable because, right? I mean, it's tough to watch a guy that's,
Right.
I mean, really in serious cognitive decline
Yep. Yep. Yep.
and not being able to make a point, and just kind of slurring his words. And, you know, give him a big dignified send off that you're, the greatest person, have all the analysts on this set put on Lee Corso heads and send him off in a quality way. But
Yeah. I
to
mean,
trot him out.
here's the thing. You could do another broadcast without cameras, and Lee Corso wouldn't recognize that it was not the real broadcast. So you could let him think that he's still on the air, avoid all the awkwardness, and just shoot everything. Tell him that things have been moved to Sunday or adjust his calendar.
Monday college countdown. Yeah, Monday college game day. Yeah,
Exactly.
No, it's just sad to watch that show because I mean I used to love watching show. His shtick about putting the mascot head on is
Yeah.
it's part of the lore, but I mean now
It's time to let it go.
Yeah, it's hard to watch.
I agree. Somebody's got to step in and do it for them though, because I don't think they're going to stop trotting him out.
Yeah, or maybe he begins to understand that perhaps I shouldn't be doing this anymore.
I don't know that he can understand it. I mean, it's interesting. So, did you see I'm Already Gone, the Glenn Campbell movie?
No.
So I would recommend that. It's a hard watch, very, very sad and tearful. But, Glenn Miller knows that he is suffering from dementia and his family knows. And so they decide that they want to do one last tour with him. And he's in the beginning of Incompos Mentis, but he can still play. And, there's all this research showing about how music affects a different area of her brain than what is diminished through Alzheimer's. And so there is this great scene where he's playing at the ACM, the American Country Music Awards, and something happens and he starts laughing, and sort of this maniacal laugh while he's playing. But he's able to keep playing just beautifully and flawlessly. And it really was a fascinating thing. But they did that last tour for him and they filmed it all. And so you got to see the dementia growing, anger with his wife and his daughter at various points of time, unjustifiable anger. And then also, sweetness that is the sweetness of Alzheimer's. It's not necessarily, your character per se, but as your character starts to fade away. Yeah. And it's an amazing, moving piece. I would recommend that to everybody. And the song that goes with it that he wrote is pretty brutal, but essentially talks about the fact that, or he says, the song I think is called "I Won't Miss You," and talks about the fact that his mental capacity is going to go away, and so he won't know enough to miss the people that he loves anymore. It's strong, sad, but it's a good movie.
Alzheimer's a bastard, so
it is. Let's fix that before cancer. I mean, that Biden has a more pressing issue with anyway. So,
ouch.
Apparently, it's my politically incorrect day. My posse is down from
man.
Boston. And that brings it out in me.
Is it tomorrow that they're finally burying the Queen?
Yes.
Finally. They ought to strap her onto the back of that shaggy thing from Neverending Story, because that's kind of what it's been like.
Are they going to bury her in Westminster Abbey?
I don't know where they're burying her. I would assume next to her husband, wherever that is.
She'll be buried at St. George's Chapel within the grounds of Windsor Castle. I've been there. Okay.
Yeah, so that's going to finally be over. I mean, mad respect to somebody who would stand in line for 24
You saw Beckham.
More hours. Yeah, Beckham. It was impressive.
Yeah, Beckham could have cut the line using his celebrity, but he chose to wait in the real line 13 hours.
Yep.
See the Queen.
It was it's over. It got to over 24 hours. That they cut it off. That
Yep.
whoever's in line right now is
That's
who is going
Yeah.
to be in line. They're gonna take her out in about 3 hours. I think 6:30 local time.
Yeah.
To start the funeral stuff.
Yeah.
And but honestly, I couldn't imagine standing in line for someone I know would never have stood in line for me.
Yeah.
To me,
Uh,
that
but I mean, that's true for. I mean, is there anybody that you would stand in line for? I mean, who are the people that you've really admired in the world?
mm,
See,
I mean,
there's the
to
problem.
me, yeah, to me, I would stand in line for friends. I would stand in line for
Well,
people
sure,
who
sure,
I've actually
okay,
had personal connection with. You
right.
know,
But
my
yeah, I mean, I guess that's true. I don't think there's many people I would stand in line for, but maybe like you know, Gandhi, um, a few political figures. Thomas Jefferson zombie were to come back and then die again.
yeah, it's very hard for me to. I mean, I think maybe somebody like
Well, what's interesting about it is the idea of what is a real experience, and obviously that's another show. But what is different from you walking past as opposed to you wearing a VR helmet and a drone flying past.
yeah. I mean, if you were that into doing that, I guess you could. I mean, that would make a lot. You wouldn't have to stand in line for 24 hours. I mean, that
Yep.
to me that seems ridiculous. But
I
different people do different things, and I can't fault people too much for it. I just think that uh, she's been gone like 10 days now,
Yeah,
and she hasn't been buried, and I think that's just
it's
it's
weird.
too much.
Yeah, it is pretty weird. I mean, think about the so many religions have traditions of the body has to be in the ground after a certain amount
Pretty
of
sure,
time.
yeah.
Um,
Like the Saudis. So when King of Saudi Arabia is he dies, they're in the ground that before sunset, and it's a very the rules of Islam, the very strict interpretation that they're under. It's pretty much an unmarked grave, or very austerely marked grave. It's a very austere coffin. It's just a wood box.
yeah,
So I mean that. Different countries do it different ways, but I think 10 days is a little bit excessive. We don't have much room to talk. I mean, remember Ronald Reagan's funeral took like months. It felt like.
yeah,
But last story of the week: Democrats announced this week that they're going to hold up a gay marriage protection bill that they're trying to pass through the House and Senate until after the elections. Um, to me, like this is kind of like extortion. Like you better vote for us, or you're not going to get the gay marriage protections, and then the Republicans will be in power and they'll take them all away from you.
yeah.
Um,
But
if you got the numbers to do it now, do it now.
yeah, but you know what? That's the Democrats' history. They can give two shits about gay marriage.
Hmm.
They only care about winning elections, right? It's not that long ago that both Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton said on the presidential campaign trail, marriage is between a man and a woman, right? Gay marriage, LGBT rights, all that stuff. It's just a political weapon in their arsenal for the
Oh
Democrats.
yeah,
They really don't care.
and amazingly that they took credit for the
Yeah.
changes to gay marriage when really it was the courts. It was not anything for legislation that
Well,
they.
I tell you, the guy who it was, and now I know some people are going to say that he's not a libertarian, but it was Bill Weld who appointed a lesbian to the Massachusetts Supreme Court as a chief justice, and then it was their ruling that became the one that did
Kicked it off.
Oberfeld,
Yep.
right? So it really was a libertarian, if I can call Bill Weld that. Uh, it was a libertarian-leaning person
Yeah.
who actually, ended, who freed marriage from the structure that the state imposed upon it.
Exactly. All right, sir. Like I mentioned, no show next week, but we'll be back in 2 weeks. And we're looking for guests. So if you're interested in coming on the show or hosts or anything like that, reach out to me. I know we got elections coming up. So if you're a candidate and want to talk to us, we are open.
Yeah, especially like if you have 1 million followers, we really want you on the show.
This is true.
Right. Don't forget to click subscribe, click the bell.
Yes.
If you're on Facebook, like the page. All of those things, except I think you need to have a graphic of like going down and like clicking the button and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, actually, hold on just a second. While we have you here captively,
Yeah,
um,
let me tell you some of my favorite palindromes since I took down my A Man, a Plan, a Canal, Panama, which is one of the best palindromes. But the other one, let me find a palindrome radio. I, madam, I made radio, so I dared. Am I mad? Am I? That's the
are
best
you?
palindrome of all.
All right. So here is our YouTube page, and you can see us about 30-second
I
delay.
like it.
You see it. So if you're on YouTube, click that like button. Don't click the dislike button if you don't really like what we're doing. That's fine. Click share, and then on my page, I don't know that.
You don't have a subscribe button.
Yeah, but
Subscribe.
over here on the side here a little bit, I have a subscribe. So click on that, and wow, you're showing time delayed with your faces there. There's also a bell that you can click, and it reminds you every time that you want to watch the political deep dive. But anyway, that's our webpage.
All right, guys.
But yeah, thanks for joining us this week, and we'll see you all in 2 weeks. Take care, everybody.
Let's guys say goodnight, Gracie.
Good night, Gracie.